Let me quickly share my slides and we can begin. All right, so we did this yesterday, but I need to do this again today to just give us idea and concept of what we are doing so that we can benefit maximally from um, the meeting. All right, so um, my name is Solomon Fitz. I'm the president of African Transformation Network, and um, I just want to let us know what African Transformation Network is all about, and then what the Young African Leaders Summit is all about, and what to expect from the summit. All right. So, African Transformation Network is an organization that was founded 2 years ago, and the aim of the organization is to help young Africans to gain mental transformation for the sake of leadership. One of our issues as a continent is that we are not able to maximize the potentials we have as a continent because of lack of transformation of our leaders. And it starts from when we are young. We're not transformed from when you are young. You get into those positions as leaders, and then you cannot deliver maximal results. Right. So it's just trying to bridge that gap between the time of being young when you've not begun to hold important positions in the society and when you begin to become relevant in society. All right. So the aim is to help um, young Africans transforming their minds so that they can hold leadership positions and become very, very important and very, very useful to society. All right. So I would like to get confirmation that I'm being heard. I'm sorry, just so that I know I'm not talking to myself and I'm not really wasting time. So please, yes, okay, thank you so much. All right, so if I'm being heard, I think I just proceed with the presentation. All right, so um, then what is Young Africans Leaders Summit? It's a program we just came up with um, recently, and it came about when I was trying to make an application to the One Young World Leaders Summit in Canada, Ontario, Canada. And I discovered that we don't have anything like that in Africa currently, where we are able to get people who are doing very well in their various fields come speak to young people. In fact, the One Young World Leaders Summit brings a lot of people from Africa and all over the world, and then they're able to speak. So you see a lot of Africans going there, but we don't have anything like that in Africa. So my hope is that we're able to crystallize this. It's starting small, but I'm hoping that we can crystallize it to become something bigger in the future. Hopefully, next year, by God's grace, if we're able to come up with everything we need, we'll be having it as a physical event in Abuja, the city of Abuja in Nigeria, hopefully. And then going forward, probably in other countries also, just to get every young people from other nations come to a particular spot in Africa and learn from those who are doing well. All right. So that's the idea. So within the time that you are here, I'm hoping that you are able to learn things that help you to grow, to gain transformation, and then actionable insights that will help you to be very valuable as a leader in your business and your various fields of endeavor. So I'm so glad to have everyone here. Please have a great time while the summit is on. And I hope that we're able to learn from our speaker for today. Yesterday was awesome, and I'm sure today will be even much more better. All right. So please, our speaker for today, permit me to just give a little rundown about him, and then read his profile, and then having done that, I'll hand over to him so that he can continue from there. All right. So please just give me a short time to share that for us. All right. Okay. So here it is. I hope we can all see. Um, I hope we can all see the profile. Can I get confirmation that we can see it? Then I begin to read. All right. So our speaker for today is Abayomi-Perez, popularly known as AP Okekunle. Abayomi-Perez Okekunle. He's a dynamic professional with 6 years of experience serving across innovation hubs, digital agencies, social enterprises, and startups. He is a co-founder of Ginergy, a climate tech startup focused on providing financing and infrastructure to help businesses transitioning from traditionally expensive fuel sources to more cost-effective and eco-friendly alternatives that is fit for emerging markets like Nigeria. As a startup support associate with Innovate Lab, AP supports founders in underserved university communities to nurture their innovation and drive market adoption. As business development associate at Quella, AP helps to provide branding, tech, and marketing support services to a global network of clients spread across 4 continents. AP's big picture is to unlock the entrepreneurial potential of Africa's university communities through venture building, best practices, and venture capital access. Above all, AP is an unfolding story of grace, a love of God, and a broken alabaster box wasted on Jesus. Wow. So it's such a privilege to have our speaker for today. From the profile, you can see someone doing very well in various fields, holding positions in different organizations, and bridging the gap, between young people having access to the things they need to become successful in their different workplaces. So it's a privilege to have our speaker for today, Mr. Abayomi-Okekunle. We are so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for accepting to speak to us this evening. We are so grateful. Please, I'll hand over to you now so that you can begin your presentation. Thank you so much, sir. You are unmuted, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Faith. It's such an honor to be here. Maybe I will share my screen. Give me a second. I should be able to share my screen. Yes, I think I can. Kindly let me know when my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible now.
Okay. So my screen is visible. Let's do this. Okay. Good. So good to be with you guys. Can everybody see my screen? And can everybody also see me?
Yes.
So
yes,
my screen are visible?
Yes, both. Yes.
Oh, great. Such an honor to be here today. Faith, thank you so much for having me around. I did some reading on the WhatsApp group, and it gave me an idea of what yesterday went like. Doctor had taken us via an academic route to things and just effective and all of that. And it was just interesting reading through what folks had learned from yesterday. And I want to salute everyone on the call. I know that we're joining from different places across different countries. Being here means that you understand the relationship between mental transformation and development within a country or within a people. There's a very close relationship between mental transformation and change within a demography, change within a country, change within a community. And being here shows that, number one, you understand at the bare minimum, at the basic level, that there is a connection between hearing stuff and that stuff changing you from the inside, and what you have then had been able to change your circumstances and change the community within which you are placed. And being here also signifies your commitment, to contribute to part of the transformation we all desire to see in Africa. So I want to start by saluting you all and say thank you so much for making the time to be here today. So I've been asked to speak on prototype, following pattern leaders. and we're gonna have an amazing time today. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go right in. So this is my promise. Yeah, to everyone today that has spent time to come here today. That at the end of this session, number one, you would be able to understand the power of pattern leadership in helping us come into destiny. Yeah, you'll be able to understand how relevant, yeah, this topic is, how transformational it's able to, how relevant it is in moving you from where you are right now to where you need to be, or in moving you from where you are right now to where you want to be. Yeah, that's my promise to you. We will promise more that at the end of this session, you would understand the power of pattern leadership in helping us to come into our destiny. Yeah. Number two, you will understand how to make this success system of pattern leadership work for us. Yeah. So we won't just understand, oh, this is how this pattern leadership is able to move us from point A to point B. We'll also be able to understand how exactly should we be able to, are we able to take this information and apply it to our lives, to our context, and see it move us from point A to point B. Yeah, that's the second promise. And the third promise I'm making here today is that you will be able to understand how to become a pattern leader, yeah, that blesses your generation and the one to come. So not just will you be able to understand how to make pattern leadership, this concept, this success system, not just will you be able to understand how to make it work for you, but you also be able to understand how to become a pattern leader yourself. Yeah. So if you're ready, just drop in the comments. Let me know. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. If you're ready for us to go, good, 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 good. Now let's play a quick game. Yeah, I wanted to. Good, good, good. Now let's play a quick game. Thank you. I see you, Vincent. I see you, Joseph. I see you, David the Bold. Cool. Now let's play a quick game. Yeah. What comes to mind when you see these pictures? There are three pictures on the screen. Just type. What are the first things that come to your mind when you see these pictures? What are the first things that come to your mind? Just drop it. Doctor, thank you, thank you. Model, yeah. Achieved, interesting. Okay, let's keep it going. Even if you've spoken before, you can speak again. Now, think about it within the context of what we're treating today. Yeah. So somebody have said model, somebody have said doctor, somebody have said achieved. What else comes to mind? Role models. Interesting. Martin Luther, I love that. Cool, 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 cool. Role models. Yeah. Superhero. I like that. So these are keywords. And maybe I should just get my pen and pen them down. Role models, superheroes. I want you to remember these words. Yeah, that's cool. Who else wants to go? Those are two keywords that I want us to remember. Role models and heroes. What other word comes to mind? What other word? Let's take one more. Movie star. Cool. I love that. Thank you so much, guys, for participating in this exercise. Yeah. And you got like the gist. You got the gist of what I was trying to point there. Yeah. I had showed us that to highlight or spotlight the word role model. Yeah. And you know, the topic for today is prototype, following pattern leaders. And if you pattern is a keyword in that topic, prototype is a keyword in that topic, another keyword in that topic is mentorship, another word in that topic is leadership. But I've decided to boil down the essence of today's topic into role models. Yeah, and I'm going to be speaking specifically on this one word as it relates to prototype and following pattern leaders. So I'm going to narrow down into these role models. And don't forget to remember those pictures I showed you before now. They're going to be relevant much later. Yeah. And remember that there are two words that somebody spoke about. That was smart, by the way. Role models and heroes. Yeah. Somebody spoke about achieved. Somebody spoke about being a doctor. A doctor is a job description. Yeah. So let's go into it. What exactly is role model? What does it mean when we speak about role models? Yeah. So let's have in the comment again. Role models. I want us to engage as much as we can. What comes to mind when you hear the word role model? I'm going to waiting for you in the chat. What comes to mind for you when you hear the word role model? Someone that people look up to. That's Michael. Someone to look up to and inspiring. Cool. An example to follow in a certain role. I like that definition. An example to follow in a certain role. I'm going to be adopting that definition. Thank you so much, guys, for engaging. I tried to come up with a very short definition for role models, and I simply called it pictures of how things should be. That is role model. Yeah. A role model is a picture, and role models can be individuals, role models can be organizations. Is a picture of how things should be. You see this here, and this is such an important topic. And I'm going to speak to this very soon. But let me say this here. This is such an important topic because there was this day I went out in my community for an outreach, and I just met different young people, and I asked them that, can you tell me people that you know that you would consider as success, people who are successful people? And I was very shocked at the kind of examples I heard them giving. For example, I remember very clearly that one of them told me Pablo Escobar. I don't know how many of you know Pablo Escobar. How many of you are familiar with Pablo Escobar? Cool, cool. I'm telling you, one of them told me Pablo Escobar, and I was like, what? And I asked him why. He was like, the guy has a lot of money, and I was like, whoa, yeah. So there is such an acute lack of correct role models in the communities that we live in. There is such, and when I speak about role models, I speak about role models in virtually every sector and every sphere. Because when you look at the people in politics, they are politicians, they are popular, they have won elections, they are powerful, but they do not exactly look like pictures of how things should be. Somebody can be popular but not be a role model. You see that here? The entertainment stars and the music stars that are most popular and most young people are growing up and wanting to be like them, they are not really the ideal picture of how things should be. You see that here? So there is such an acute lack of correct role models. And that's one of the reasons why I'm speaking about this today in relationship to prototype and following pattern leaders. Role models are pictures of how things should be. They show us the pictures of how things should be. Yeah. So I can have a role model for my career, and that role model is helping me see what are the possibilities that can exist for me in my career. You see that? So don't forget the definition. I love the definition that Joseph gave. He says role models he says they are good examples to follow in a certain role. That is so profound. Yeah. So let's make progress. And I want to share with you guys my story. Yeah. And I'm going to share you guys this story too, so that you understand why this topic is very important. Yeah. And I just attached, this was my graduation picture from earlier this year. I just graduated from my postgraduate program, the Nigerian Scholars Program, here in Nigeria. It's at a 30,000 USD scholarship. And I had the opportunity of 1 year to learn from different academics and industry leaders from Ivy League universities across the world, some of the best minds I've ever met in my life. And coincidentally, I am an only son and the last born of a family of 4 children. Yeah. And I'm the first person in my family to go to a proper university. Like nobody has ever gone to university in my family, not my 2 parents, not my siblings. Yeah. So this is seemingly something that no one in my generation had ever achieved. Yeah. And it was all glamorous on that day. But I want to be able to share the story that led up to this point. Yeah. So if you are ready to journey with me very briefly, can you just drop in the comment to say I'm ready, or just give a reaction to let me know you're with me? Thank you, David. Cool. I see you. I see you. I see you. Cool. So let's get started. Um, I I was born in somewhere you would call a ghetto. I specifically looked for this picture, like when I was searching for pictures to use for this slide. When I found this picture, I was like, this is the picture. So this is no exaggeration, guys. The picture you see right here was me many years ago. I literally went like physically sure. These guys maybe even, do they have slippers on? They have slippers on. So some of them even look better. Some of those days we went to dump places like this without shoes, and we'll go there without shorts. We would only have short knickers, and we would have tires like this to ride. Literally, this is the kind of place I was born. Yeah, I was born in the ghetto. Yeah, and the compound I was born in was a face me I slap you compound. Yeah, I think we had one pit toilet, and that house had probably between 50, 70, 100 people living in that same house, and we had just one pit toilet. Yeah, so this is where I was born, but I was also bred in the barracks, yeah, in the military barracks, and the Mami market, to be precise. My mom had Mami market in the barracks. It was a market in the barracks, and then we had family friends that I lived with for a while. So I was born in the ghetto and bred in the barracks. But you need to understand the concept of the environment I grew up in. Yeah, there was nothing good in that place. Yeah, the barracks was a place where young boys my age were either smoking, or they were alcoholics, or they were sleeping around. It was a kind of place where young boys are getting into vices. You could see two daughters of the same father and the same mother, yeah, get pregnant at the same time, and it was the same guy that impregnated them. Or you could find someone going out with mother and father at the same time. So this was the kind of place I grew up in. There was literally no example, yeah, and my life was not supposed to happen. My life was never supposed to be anything beyond what was around my context and my environment. Yeah. So ghetto born, barrack bred, and this is the exaggeration. The picture I showed you here is a real picture of me many, many years ago. Yeah. But then as I grew up, something happened. Yeah. My parents changed churches, and that's where I got to meet Faith. And this is maybe some over 15 years ago. Yeah. My parents changed churches, and we started going to this church in the GRA. Yeah. And then I had the opportunity. I started living two lives at this time. Yeah. I mean, Monday to Sunday, Monday to Saturday, I will interact with my ghetto environment. I will interact with the barracks environment. And then on Sundays, on Tuesdays, on Thursdays, when we go to church, I would come to church and interact with an entirely new world. And most people in this my new church were well-to-do. Yeah, most of them have come up from educated home. That were the kids. Ajabota, for those of you that are from Nigeria, Ajabota is a slang for someone, for kids who are from a rich home. So as you can see in that picture, you have you have this kid getting pedicure. Yeah, this is practical rich kid things. Yeah, but I mingled with them, and what began to happen is that in that space, my mind began to change. I mean, I remember that the first book written by a white person that I read was given to me by my friend in that church, Tenela Salisu. Yeah, that was the first time I probably had the opportunity to sit down in front of a laptop and all of that. Yeah, so unconsciously for me, my mind was changing one after the other. My mind was changing. Yeah, but I was still living these two lives at the same time. And things went on from there, and I found what I would call my first role models. And this were all of them were pastors. The man here, that's Mr. Joseph Okoro, was my teens teacher. And you know that up until this time, because I came out from a ghetto, so I had a lot of inferiority complex. Yeah. I didn't think that I knew enough to speak in front of all these other kids who went to the best schools in my community, yeah, or who went to the best school in the state where I stayed. So I used to be a very, very timid kid. This was one of the men that gave me one of the first books that I ever read in my life, Purpose Driven Life. And I can't go into the depth of that story, but he changed my life literally, yeah. And this was Pastor Tangod. Then he was a senior level manager at ATN Nigeria, yeah. And he had a similar story like me. He had come up from a very poor background. This is his brother, Pastor Joseph Okoro, yeah. And they had pastored in the same church where I attended. And they also came up from very humble backgrounds, but they were now very, very well-to-do people. And I was always in awe that these people came out from very poor backgrounds, but look how God has helped them and look how they have become today. Yeah. And these people became my earliest examples of understanding that regardless of where I came, something good could happen from my life. These people became my first examples of the fact that regardless of the context of my birth or the context of my growth, it is possible to become great things from small places. So these were my first role models. Their lives gave me perspective. It gave me picture of what was possible, pictures of how things should be. Yeah, this is my first set of role models. And then one of the things I did that happened, this was Pastor Stephen, also someone else that changed my life forever, taught me a lot about how marriages should go. Yeah, and all of that. Because again, okay, I'll speak to that very shortly. Yeah. So one of the things that this set of role models did for me was that, number one, they showed me what was possible coming from where they had come from. That's one. Number two was that they gave me ideas of how to get there. So one of the first things that they did for me was that they made me fall in love with reading. They made me fall in love with study. I remember one day, this was my pastors, he asked me, he said, how many of you, if I asked you to mention the top 10 musicians in Nigeria, I'm sure you can mention all of them on the spot. Then he said, how many of you, if I asked you to mention, say, the top 10 authors that you know, or the top 10 things that you know, would you be able to do that? And he just challenged me to want to be able to just invest myself in all of those things. And today, like, my library is one of my biggest investments. Yeah. And so they made me fall in love with reading. Yeah. But I went on from there and I found much more, much more role models. Yeah. My heart enlarged. Yeah. And I started wanting, and I will speak to some of these role models much later. This is my boss and my current pastor, Mr. Jesse Damler Adishagun David. A pattern true and true, a role model true and true. Yeah. This is Demos Shakarian. This is Pastor Emmanuel Iren. This is Dr. Mas Muro. Changed my life forever. Yeah. And these were different people who I found that began to help me describe what my life should be in some certain regard. You see that here. For example, when I think about the kind of marriage that I want to have in the future, one of the people that come to mind for me is this man, Mr. JD. Because the idea of role models is that you may not be able to find one person that becomes a perfect example for every area of your life. You see that. But you are able to find one person that gives you an idea, for example, of the kind of way you want to dress. You can find a role model for that. You can find one person that gives you an idea, for example, of how you want to speak. You can find a role model for that. You can find somebody who gives an idea of the kind of career you want to build. You can find a role model for that. So what I did was to create a destiny mood board with my role models. And I had role models speaking to me about specific things in my life. You see that. For example, if I pick out Dr. David Ogweli, Dr. Ogweli was the first person, him and Dr. Miles Muro. They were the first two people that helped me understand that it was possible to be a pastor, it was possible to be a minister of the gospel, and still be a businessman, and still be someone that is deeply involved in nation building. Because Dr. Miles Muro was a pastor, but then he was consulting for nations, he was consulting for government, he was consulting for businesses. They were the first people that helped me understand that was possible. You see that, yeah? So I have a music ministry. The person whose music ministry looks like where I'm going to is Pastor Chris Delvan. Yeah, this is him right there. So what happened was, as I grew and as I began to study, I began to have role models who gave me an idea of what my life could become in different parts, in different aspects and different sectors. Yeah? If you're still with me, let me just drop in the comments and let me know that you're still with me. Great. I see you all. Cool. So let's make progress. Yeah. And today, I am still on a journey of becoming. Yeah. Today, I practically consult for local companies and non-profits and government on matters relating to impact, strategy, financing, branding, marketing, sales, and culture creation. Yeah, I am literally engaging every week with stakeholders across the world. And what was the key between moving from this point and getting to this place where I'm still on my journey of becoming, but I'm not yet where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. What was the what was the gap? What was the bridge? Is this thing called pattern leadership? Is this thing called role model? Role modelship was the bridge that moved me from a place where it looked like I didn't have, my life was not going to happen, to a place where I am being a part of the transformation of businesses across the world. Yeah, that's made progress. What is the point of this story? And I want to just spend a while here. The point of this story is to help you understand that role models are systems. I desire with all of my heart that you understand this. That role models are systems. Role models are systems. Role models are systems that God has put in place to help us rise above, to help us break away from the limitations of our backgrounds into new possibilities that seem impossible. If somebody understands this today, my speaking here would have been a success. That there is a concept that we have when we say that all fingers are not equal, and that is true. Yeah, the way life is designed, because God doesn't have command over the will of men. Yeah, people will make choices that will cause trouble for other people. So the nations you are living in today are not the best. So, and I will even lie to you, somebody who is born in the US, from the moment of his birth, he probably has more opportunities than somebody born in Zimbabwe, or than somebody born in Kenya, or than somebody born in Nigeria. And these are the contexts we are born in. For somebody that born into a family where your father and mother were always quarreling, or your parents were divorced and all of that, yeah, these are limitations of your background. Whether you like it or not, all of these things are programmed into your subconscious. And if you're not careful, such kind of people are on their way to repeating that kind of history, to repeating that kind of story. And God understands this, right? Yeah. So what God has done is that He has created a system called role models. Yeah. And this system is the system that God has put in place to help us rise and break away from the limitations of our background into new possibilities that seem impossible. So there is someone, for example, listening to me here today, that you have, whenever you think about marriage and you think about getting married or thinking about having a family, you are scared, because all the examples about marriage and building a family that you've ever had in your life have been bad examples. And somewhere in your heart, you feel like you're going to get married and repeat that same excuse. And repeat that same mistake. But God has already created a system, and that system is called role models, role modelship. And this system is able to help you rise above the context, the limitations of your background. It's able to help you break away from those places and press into possibilities that seem impossible. Role models are systems. That's the entire point of my story. That role models is the system that moved me from where I was, a ghetto kid, bred in the barrack. My life was not about to happen. It was role modelship that it carried me, just where an aircraft can carry someone from Rwanda to Nigeria, from the United Kingdom to the US, from Israel to Nigeria. Yeah, just where an aircraft can carry someone like this, like that. Role models are also systems that can literally carry us and transport us from where we are, that looks hopeless, to the places where we should be. This is very powerful. You have to understand it. Yeah. So let's do a quick exercise. Yeah. And what I need you to do this exercise. You can either drop it in the comments, yeah, or you can write it in your notes. Yeah. And the first exercise is, what is one negative pattern you have seen in your family or community that makes you feel helpless, but you desperately want to end? What is one what is one what is one negative pattern that you've seen in your family or community that makes you feel helpless or you desperately want to end? That's an exercise. So you can write in the you can write it in your in the comment. You can just write it in your notes. Quick exercise number 2. What are you trying to become today but have no idea how to get started or go about it? It's important to write it because what I'm going to be doing next is showing you practically, and I'm excited, is showing you practically how to deploy this system called role models to helping you escape, break away from the limitations of the background and your context. Oh yes, the African continent is not a limitation. Young people don't want to work. That is a pattern you want to end. Beautiful. Beautiful. You know, I had an initiative I wanted to do one time where I wanted to interview success stories. Yeah. Who were young people. And I wanted to just do a documentary to interview such success stories of young people who were doing well financially, who had gotten rich ethically, and then make that into a documentary and then stream it in secondary schools. Role models. That's one way to deploy that system called role model for mental transformation. But guess what? Some kids' irresponsibility and infidelity. Thank you. Let's make progress. I want to become an environmental activist, an advocate speaking on my ideas to end climate change. Advocate on issues affecting the world. Role models. So let's look at how role models can move you from where you are today to where you want to be. Yeah. So I have this slide. How to tap into the role model system for success. Are you ready? So there are 4 keys I've listed out there. The first key is research. The first key is research. Recognize this, that there is no new thing under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Every problem you are trying to solve today, somebody has solved the same problem. Every challenge you are facing today, someone has faced that same challenge and overcome it. There are no new problems. There are new problems. Everything you are trying to become today, someone has become it today. And some of the times, those people who had 1,000 times more challenges than you currently have today. So the first thing you want to do is to research to find the right role models. So for example, somebody's Eunice is saying that, oh, I want to become an environmental activist. The first thing I'm doing, if I was in your shoes, is going on Google and searching top 10 environmental activists in what country are you from, Eunice? What country are you from, Eunice? Zambia. I'm searching top 10 environmental activists in Zambia. I'm searching that. You see that? You are searching top 10 environmental activists in Africa. Top 10 environmental activists in US. Top 10 environmental activists in the world. I'm telling you literally what I do. And then as I search them, I begin to read about them. And when I'm reading, I'm watching in my heart, because there's something called the principle of resonance. As you read, it's like magnets. Yeah, when you put one magnet before another, they magnetize. When you put one magnet before a metal, they magnetize. You see that, yeah? As you begin to study these examples, research, as you're researching and studying these examples, what will happen is that when you begin to see the people that look like where you're going to, you will begin to feel that resonance in your heart. You begin to feel that resonance in your heart. That was how I came up with that list that I showed you. My list of role models. Yeah. is that as you consider their life, there will be something that stands out to you that, oh, this is something I like about this person I like to have. And then you are cataloging a mood board. I work in a design agency. And many times when we want to design, we create what we call a mood board. We look for different kind of designs. And all of those designs that we find, they have something that we want to have in the final design we're trying to produce. You see that? So you research, number one, to acquire role models. Google is your friend. LinkedIn is your friend. In fact, the reason why I like LinkedIn is that when I go on LinkedIn, and I see people who I want to follow, what happens is that on LinkedIn, I can literally see their experiences over the years. I can see, oh, they went to this school. They studied this course at this time. They studied this course at this time. Oh my God. They studied this course at this time. And then they worked in this company for this year. See, by the time you are done researching, you can literally come up with a map for your life that shows you how to move from exactly where you are to where you should be, from just understanding role models. Many years ago, one of my friends shared a story. So Okekunle shared a story I will never forget. He said one day, somebody walked into his room and saw a notebook on the table. And on that notebook, there were the names. There was the biographies or the details of different leaders across the world, people like John Maxwell. And he will write in that note, John Maxwell, name, John Maxwell, age. He will write it so and so. Age that he got married, so and so. Age that he had his 4 children, so and so. Age that he started the first company, XYZ. He wrote all these things. And then when his friend came into his room and picked up that notebook and saw all of that, he was confused. He was like, dude, why are you writing all of this in your notes? Guess what my friend told him? My friend told him this. He said, success has a formula. It can be studied, it can be understood, and it can be replicated. Success has an exact formula. It can be studied, it can be understood, and it can be replicated. Success has an exact formula. It can be studied, it can be understood, it can be replicated. The success principles, the success secret of many great people is oftentimes in their stories. And you find these people, you find those principles from research. I'm showing you how to practically ride on this system called role models. So number one is research. Number two is what I call immerse. And you immerse by finding books, by finding talks, by finding courses, by finding programs that have been done by these role models. And you soak in them, you immerse in them. Jesus is my greatest all-time role models. And then I find the Bible, for example, and I immerse in it. I sleep listening to it. I read it every day. What happens is that when you begin to see, can everybody type in the comment one global leader that you would like to meet today? I want to show you something. Type in the comment one global leader that you like to meet today. Just type in the comments one global leader that you like to meet today. Abayomi, beautiful. Let's take more. Or one role model. Let's not limit it to just people who are career leaders. But I mean Netanyahu, who? Ambassador Bankole Adjoye. Ambassador to which country is he? Elon Musk, beautiful. Now, do you realize? See, I have practically seen this change people's life. For example, how many of you are familiar with Apostle Joshua Selman? How many of you are familiar with Apostle Joshua Selman? Good. Now, I have been listening to Apostle Joshua Selman for nothing less than 10 years. I remember visiting their church in Zaria, Kaduna State, and as at that time I visited their church in Zaria, Kaduna State, there was no address to their church. Do you understand that? You couldn't locate their church Oh, interesting. I see that. African Union Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security. Okay, I've learned something. Ambassador Bankole Adeoye, African Union Commissioner. Okay, okay, beautiful. Now, at the time I visited their church, then they there was no map. So how you get there is by describing and saying, see, if you take a bike, drop here, then go right and go left and go left, and then you see the church was in an uncompleted building. But you know, as far back as 10 years ago, he had his role models, people like Dr. Mike Murdoch, and he was studying their books. And I watched, and you see, when you immerse in the materials, in the mindset of role models, when you immerse, what happens is that you adopt their mindsets, you adopt their principles, and like a magnet, because you now have their mindset, like a magnet, they will begin to attract you and pull you from where you are right now and begin to pull you to the current level of life where they operate, literally. And you know, for the first time this year, Apostle Selman met with Mike Murdoch in person. And I said, this is so wonderful that somebody was through immersion taking in the principles and the ideologies and the mindsets, the heart posture of the places where he's going to. Yeah, and like a magnet, that mindset began to attract them and it moved them from where they were to where they needed to be. Guess what? You may never have the opportunity to meet Sam Adeyemi today. You know, one of my mentors, I've been trying to see him for like months, literally. He's so busy. I messaged him this morning and he sent me a voice note and said, hey, we're out of town. We wanted to rest for the year. We're traveling around. But when we come back next year, I'm going to create time for us to meet. I'm sure that next year I will still be trusting God and praying to see him. He's so busy. So you may not be able to get time with this because they are so busy. But guess what? When I buy a book by Sam Adeyemi and sit with it, I have one-on-one attention with him. I can sit with him for as long as I want, entering into his thought, adopting his mindset. I can tell him, say it again, say it again, say it again, by reading it again, reading it again, reading it again. You see that? So immersion. How do we immerse? We immerse through books, talks, courses, and programs. And what we are doing is that we are adopting principles, we are adopting mindset, we are adopting heart conditions, we are adopting convictions from immersing in the materials of role models. Number three is visioning. And you know, many times when we talk about this, people think that we're talking about motivational jargons, but really, this is the truth. This is exactly how life works. This is exactly how life works. So someone can choose to say that we're saying motivational jargons and keep saying that. And we can choose to say that this is how these things work and keep doing them. And after time, results will prove whether we're wasting our time or not. Visioning. Imagine for a moment that the laptop you are currently looking at me with, or the phone you are currently looking at me with, once upon a time was in somebody's mind. Visioning. You know, I can close my eyes and imagine. I'll give you an example. For the program that I applied for last year, it was a scholarship. You know, I obsessed about that program. I will sit and imagine myself in the program. I will imagine myself receiving the application. Do you know, I imagine myself in the interview because that program had 4 application stages. I imagined what the final application phase was going to look like. I imagined exactly who was going to be inviting, who was going to be interviewing me. Guess what? The day I showed up for that interview was the exact same person that I imagined that came to interview me. That was the president of the organization, Dr. Babs Omotwa. I will envision to the point where I will physically begin to feel what it will feel like when I have those results. I'm a minister of the gospel, and I'll tell people that before I ever casted out my first demon, I casted out maybe 1,000 demons at least in my imagination. Visioning. The ability to sit every day and how do I explain this in words that you will understand? Visioning. Very powerful principle. Very powerful principle. You know, sometimes when I leave my office and I'm going home, I would begin to vision. I will vision the kind of cars I want to ride in. I will vision myself entering my house. I'll vision what the house I will live in looks like. I will vision what my office in that house would look like. I'm visioning all these things. Vision, very powerful. Because what you're doing is that you are sending commands to your subconscious. They are preparing you to get into that place and to begin to function at the same level that you are looking at. You know, I'll give you an example. I remember when I was an undergraduate and I used to be in the choir then. And then the first day they asked me to lead praise worship in church. I led it so well that people were like, where did you learn to do that from? Well, I've been doing that before then, but truth of the matter is that I had done like 100 praise worship sessions in my head and in my room before I ever stepped in that church to do it. So the day I showed up, I didn't look like a learner. I looked like I've been doing it expertly all my life. But guess what? Most of it has been done here. Vision. And that is not wasting time. It is not daydreaming. It is not wishful thinking. It is hard work. I'm literally creating the future I want to live in and sending it into my heart so that the day I show up in that level, I show up as somebody who has been prepared. Visioning. And the last phase is action. Action. You see, it is under this place of visioning, yeah, that I would tell myself that when I find myself in XYZ situations, I'm not going to do X, A, B, C, D. It's in that visioning situation that I'll tell myself, somebody spoke about fidelity and infidelity the other time. It is in that visioning situation that you tell yourself that, see, these are the kind of situations I will never be in. And you envision it that, see, if I ever get to a place where I find myself in XYZ, XYZ, XYZ situations, this is what I'm going to do. Let me give you an example as I move away from this point. God paid my way through school, literally. As of my final year, I was owing school fees of 5 semesters. 5 semesters. And I remembered there was a policy that made that I couldn't write my final exams if I didn't pay off the backlog of school fees tuition that I had. And then I remember that people were going to forge receipts. Yeah, even Christians were going to forge receipts to show and say we're paid, and then they will enter to write exam. And then I said that wasn't going to be something I would do. So I refused to do it. And I remember that in a class of like 80 something people, I was the only one standing outside, not being able to write this exam. Sure, there were people who were believers, who were Christians, they were saying that, guy, your own is too much. Just falsify these records and enter and do your exam. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And miraculously, God provided for my total school fees. God literally paid my school fees. I provided for that. And I remember that I visited one of my friends, and his girlfriend was looking at me and saying, what kind of man are you? Like, weren't you afraid that you wouldn't graduate? Weren't you afraid that you have an extra year? And I told her 2 things. I said, number one, we make up our mind before lunch. You see that when Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Bible heroes, when they found themselves in Babylon and they were being tempted by food, they had made up their mind about whether they were going to eat from the king's table or not long before they saw that food. So they didn't get there and start thinking, will I do this? Will I not do this? They made up their mind a long time ago. The second thing I told her is that, see, I have imagined the possibilities. I've imagined the worst thing that can happen. And I've imagined the best thing that can happen. And I've concluded that I'm still fine. So that was why I was able to go through that action. You see that, yeah? And I had an extra semester, by the way. But it didn't impinge on my success because I had envisioned it then that this has no power to impede on my success. And lastly, action. You can do A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3. And if you don't do action, nothing's going to change. You begin to deliberately practice. Deliberately practice. Whenever you're living up, for example, you know what? I told myself that I was going to be minutes early for today's meeting. It's a personal value of timeliness. I'm practicing what I've seen my role models do, timeliness. And I was here before 5. So you practice, you take action. Yeah? If you're still with me, let me know you're still with me as I begin to round up. Have you learned something? today? Great, 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 great. Now let me start preparing to round up. So first we've spoken about why role models are important. I spoke about the fact that there are systems that God has put in place that are important to help us break away from the limitations of our background. That's why they're important. I've spoken to us about how we can practically tap into the system of role models for success. And lastly, let's bring it together here. I said role models give us a map for our life when we research. When we research, what we find for our life through role models is a map for our own life, a map that helps us know how to move from where we are to where we should be. Immersions help us soak in their mindset and principles. Immersions, maybe through books, courses, programs, mentorships, and programs, they help us soak into their mindset and principles for success. Visioning conditions us for success, and action gets us the results. Yeah. Before I go on, can you type out for me what is the most profound point that you found so far? The most profound points you found so far out of the 4. Quickly just type what is the most profound point you found out of the 4 keys I shared. Visually. Still waiting for you guys. Interesting. Visually. We make up our mind before lunch. That's right. Many times the preceding night, I imagine my day. Preceding night, I know exactly. I will walk through the entire day. That's right. You find your mentors through research. Google is your friend. You can literally even chat GPT these things. I'm looking for people who have this, and this. And as you begin to read through the list, something on your inside will help you find where you know the ones that resonate with you. Good. So let's move on very quickly. Yeah. So first was talking about why role models are important. Next, we spoke about how we can practically implement the success system called role models in our lives. And lastly, I want to speak to you about the value system we must embrace if we would also become transgenerational role models in our generation. People that the other people will look up to. Say, I want to be like that guy. Yeah. I've highlighted 5 values, 5 principles that we must embrace. The first one is integrity. This means doing the right thing even when no one is looking at you. Integrity. Integrity. Doing the right thing even when no one is looking at you. I've made up my mind a long time ago. I'm going to live right. Behind closed doors, I'm going to live right. I'm going to live right. I'm going to do the right thing. One day I looked at myself and I asked God, what do I get from doing the right thing? Like, what do I get? People who are breaking the rules, nothing is happening to them. What do I get? And I remember righteousness exalts a nation. Righteousness exalts a nation. So I knew that even though nobody was telling me thank you, even though everybody was doing the wrong thing, I knew that if I kept on with doing wrong thing, for every right thing I do, I was making the world a better place. Integrity, doing the right thing, even when no one is looking at you. Number 2, excellence. Excellence means delivering beyond expectation, regardless of the odds. Delivering beyond, exceeding expectations. How? Regardless of the odds. Being the kind of person that people can depend on to deliver, even though everything and anything goes wrong, they know you will still deliver. That's excellence. No excuses. Excellence. Delivering beyond expectation, regardless of the odds. Next, accountability. What is accountability? It is knowing that I am answerable to God first and then to people. I honor my boss, but trust me, I do my job first as one who is accountable to God. Like, God is the first person I'm going to give account to. Accountability. These are values to live by. Next, vision. which means seeing beyond the status quo into a better future. We must be the kind of people that when we step into systems, when we step into the organization, we would ask the question, what does better mean for this place? What does better mean for these people? How can things be better in this place? That is vision. That is a visionary talking. And finally, self-leadership. Self-leadership. That is insisting that you must start with yourself. Insisting that I must start with myself. So many times when things go wrong at home, I will take the initiative by correcting that thing first in myself, and then I'll correct that thing first in myself, and then I will then encourage others to do the same. So self-leadership. Yeah. And then finally for today, let's confirm. I made 3 promises to us at the beginning of this talk. I said that I will help us understand wherever you see pattern leadership now, replaces the role models because it's the same thing. I said I will help us understand the power of pattern leadership in helping us come into our destinies. Yeah. How many of you feel like you understand how that works today? Great, 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 great. Promise number 2 is I said that we're going to understand how to make this success system of pattern leadership work for us. How many of you can say that I think I know today, I understand how to make this system work for me practically. And lastly, I spoke about how to become a pattern leader that blesses the generation and the next one. How many of you can say confidently today that you have understood how you can become a pattern leader? Yeah. Oh, interesting. I have a slide that is missing. I would need to go get that slide. I had one slide. I would correct that slide and I will send it to us. Yeah. I knew a slide was missing. I just wasn't able to look at it long enough. So I had a slide where I compressed. I had a slide where I created links to where you can get resources of all the role models I listed here. Yeah. And you can literally just press those links and then go find those role models. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is that after now, I'm going to correct that. That slide was just before this slide. I'll correct that slide and then I'll send back to us. But for now, this is how you can connect to me. Each of these links are clickable. You can always just click to them to reach out. I would make this available to Faith, and I'm sure he will also make it available to you guys. So I'd like to stop here for today. And I've spent exactly 54 minutes, 46 seconds speaking. And I'd like to take it first here. Thank you so much, everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much, sir. Much thanks to you for your time, the effort to make this meeting work, this session. We are so grateful. Thank you so much. Let me just say this. I met our speaker for today, Mr. Abayomi-Okekunle. That should be like more than 10 years, probably up to 15 years now ago. And he served as president of our teens class then. And he motivated me a lot then, just how he speaks. When you are in a group and someone is leading and the person is leading as if he knows what he's doing, when he's talking, he's giving very valuable insight and you are learning a lot from the person. So it challenged me a lot, in fact, in those days to also invest into myself and grow as a person. And so he has been part of my story, even though I don't think I've ever mentioned this to him personally, but he has been part of my story of growth. And it's such a privilege to have him come here and speak to us. And I'm sure a lot of us have been inspired by his presentation this evening. So before we just, let me give room for questions. You can put your question in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand if you have a question to ask. So please, we can do that as quickly as possible so that we will not delay our speaker and we also can go and have our rest. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat box or just raise your hand, please. So giving room for that in the next few seconds. All right. So I'm assuming there's no question. Since I haven't seen any yet. All right, so I think let me just ask one from my own end. Peradventure, if anyone has, they can still drop before we round up completely. So you mentioned about the part of immersing, and sometimes you might not get to meet people who you look up to, someone who mentors you, or someone who you want to be like. You might not have the opportunity to meet them physically. But how important is it for someone who is growing, a young leader who is trying to grow, to have someone that they can meet with one-on-one, to get information from someone who they look up to or who they can meet? Is that necessary, or is that something that's not really necessary for someone who's growing? Because there are some questions you might have. Probably you are running an organization. Like someone yesterday was asking about, I think he's someone from Zambia, a student leader from Zambia was asking a question, and it comes from personal experience. So probably he has read books and all that, immersed himself to an extent, but he's not able to really find answers to his specific situation. So how important is that, finding those leadership role models that you can actually meet one-on-one and learn from? Is it necessary, or you can actually learn any other thing or everything that you need from their resources and their materials, even though you don't have anyone you can speak to? So I don't know if you get what I'm trying to bring out. Yes,
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for that question. There's a lot you can get from materials, yeah. But there's also a lot that you can get from being in the same space. With a lot you can also get from being in the same space with a mentor figure or with a role model, yeah, that you look up to. So I definitely encourage people to find role models. One practical way to do that is, so I want to share three very important. In 2016, I remember praying to God and telling God that I'm a young man, I don't know much, but I wanted Him to send me men and women who would hold my hands and help me walk the path of destiny. And then God started to send me my teachers. They started to send my robots, started to send my mentors. Yeah. And a lot of the people that are active in my life today as people I look up to, and I know one-on-one, I know personally, I had met them after that period in 2016. Yeah, around or after that period in 2016. So God can lead you to the mentors. Another thing that you can do to meet them is just getting in spaces where you can find them. Yeah, I still believe that churches are one of the best places you can get very solid mentorship. Yeah, when you volunteer at events or you attend events, it allows you to meet different kinds of people. You have no idea. For example, there is someone I have been understudying. Yeah, I've been understudying, and this is real life story happening to me right now. I've been understudying his life, but he's late right now. And then suddenly I saw a book about him that was written by one of his mentees that is also now an old man, perhaps he's in his 60s and his 70s, a mentee of this man that I'm studying. And I'm reading his book on this other man that I've been understudying. And then today, I was reading that book in the morning. I was like, who is this guy? And I just went online to search, and I discovered that he was still alive. One, I discovered that he was an old man now, maybe in the 60s and 70s. And then I discovered that he didn't have so many people following him. He was not very popular. there were just like 1,600 people following him on Facebook. And then he had said that he needed help with marketing and dropped his Gmail, his actual Gmail. Guess what? That is my entrance. Yeah. Because when you come, you also come to bring value. You bring value to them. You see that. So I already know that, oh, first of all, I found his email. I know how exactly to get in touch with him. I screenshot it and kept it. The next thing that when I'm going to reach out to him, I'll just tell him that, sir, I'm here. Just use me, spend me. Yeah. So that is one way I'm using to like get into his space and just be in that space where I can learn from him directly. I can establish a relationship with him. What I've done is that I didn't come and I'm not going to come and say, I want you to do this and I want you to do that. No, 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 no. That's not how to start. Yeah. You start by doing value. There is something, trust me. Even my current mentors, sometimes when I really, really want to have their time, because they are very busy people, when I really, 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 really want to take out of their time, what I do sometimes is I can tell them that, sir, can I take you out for lunch? And then we'll go out for lunch or we'll go out for dinner. And then I'll use that opportunity to ask the question I need to ask. Or I could travel with them sometimes and use that opportunity to ask questions that I want to ask. Or we could drive together sometimes. Example, to ask questions I need to ask. So number one, yes, it's important to get people you can. I don't want to start speaking about how important it is. Just know it's important. You need it. Number two,
I don't know if it's just from my end. Am I the only one having this issue? I can't hear our speaker anymore.
I can hear you. I think my network. Can you hear
All
me
right.
now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you.
Yeah. So don't just go and say, I want you to mentor me. Go with value. Offer them value.
Please, can you
Offer
start
them value.
started from you were saying something about number two. That's where I got lost. I don't know if others had that same
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah. I said number two. Number one, you can pray about it. Let's talk about it. Number two, offer them value. Offer them value. Don't just go and say, this is already very busy. Trust me, they're not looking for more people to come and occupy their life. Yeah. Offer them value that gives you license to be around their life. And then you can use that to tap for what they carry. Yep, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate the response to that question. So till now, I'm yet to see any other question. So I assume that everyone is okay with the presentation and I've learned from that. So please, can we all put in the chat box just the thank you notes or use your reaction, so you can even unmute, just let our speaker today know that we are grateful for the time he has spent speaking to us, and let him know that we are grateful, we appreciate his time and everything. Can you just do that in the next few minutes, in a few seconds? Let's let him know how much we are grateful, how much we appreciate. So thank you so much, sir. We are truly grateful for your time. Thank you for taking out of your time to create the content to speak to us, and then that's just been so impactful. We are so grateful. Thank you so much, sir. Hopefully, if the opportunity presents itself again and we call on you, we believe that you would yield to speak to us again. So thank you so much, sir. We are very grateful. Thank you so much. I also want to say big thank you to everyone who has joined the call today. Thank you so much. I see you, Eka P. I see you, Geoffrey. I see you, Michael, Natasha, Lassen, Florence, and every other person. I'm not able to. Albertina, thank you, Albertina, for joining. Becky, Eunice, Joseph, Luther, Natasha, Stephen, and everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's been awesome having you. So this is day 2 and the last session for YALS. Hopefully next year, the desire is that next year we're able to do it on a physical scale, and probably some of you will have to travel down to Nigeria, or you just watch it via the platforms that will make available online. But if everything works out fine, we're going to be doing it as a physical event, hopefully next year. So please keep in touch and keep following African Transformation Network to know what we are up to, and just keep getting the value that we have to offer. So thank you so much for being part of the call this evening. Permit me to just take a short prayer as we end the call, and after that we can have a very good evening. Lord, I want to thank you for the things we've learned this evening. Thank you for day 2. Thank you for the final session. Thank you for our speakers from yesterday and today. Thank you for everything we've learned. We're asking that it will not just be here alone, but the grace to also put them to practice and put them in such a way that in the next few months, few years from now, we're able to look back and comment on the impact that this meeting has had on our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. So thank you all so much. I'm so grateful for your time. Please do have a very wonderful evening. Thank you so much.